What up, ball knowers? My name's Darian. Work, finals are behind us, so we're going to continue our position deep dive today with the running back position. First up, we got to talk about the main back, Mr. J.K. Dobbins, who re-signed this offseason with the Denver Broncos for a contract worth 2 years, $16 million. I think he can get around $10 million guaranteed, but I believe it's only 8 to start. Now, I think a lot of us were very happy with J.K. Dobbins and how he performed through the first half of the year. The Broncos' run game was actually somewhat consistent on a game-to-game basis, and J.K. Dobbins was around a top 5 rusher until he got hurt against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, it was a very unfortunate injury for J.K. Dobbins. It was a near hip drop tackle by the Las Vegas Raiders defender, and Dobbins ended up missing the rest of the year, and the Broncos' run game fell off drastically after he did. Now, while I do believe it is unfair to call J.K. Dobbins injury-prone, it's just what he is at this point. He has missed more than 50% of his career games so far, and you can't really rely on him as an RB1 that's going to make it through the entire season. But with most of his contract being guaranteed this year, the Broncos can get out of it next year if he were to miss more time, and they ended up taking Jonah Coleman in the 4th round, so I like the Broncos' insurance more this year than last year. I hope J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy, and if he does, I hope he can be a 1,000-yard rusher for this team. But the Broncos also do have depth, so we'll see if he gets there if the tandem of him and RJ, as well as Jonah, can combine to be a more consistent rushing attack for the Denver Broncos. So a good bounce-back year for J.K. Dobbins. Hopefully he can stay healthy, and hopefully the Broncos can limit his workload with the help of RJ and Jonah. So I don't really know the future of J.K. I think he could be here for the 2 years on his contract, but after that, I'm not so sure. But he's still got some tread in his tires, and hopefully he can stay healthy. Moving on to the Broncos' current RB2, we got RJ Harvey, second-year running back out of UCF. Now, RJ not only surprised me last year, but also kind of confirmed what I thought about him post-draft. While his receiving game was absolutely electric for the Denver Broncos, the run game left a lot to be desired. Now, I think some of that is due to scheme, kind of be thrust in that position when he wasn't ready, and as well as losing Ben Powers. But my concerns for RJ Harvey was his vision in between the tackles before the draft, and it kind of showed when the run game fell off a cliff after J.K. Dobbins went down. Now, he's a very explosive running back, and he can hit the outside well, but he still needs to work on his in-between tackles and find those holes easier, like we saw in that Jaguars game when he broke out that big run. Now, RJ is already 25 into his second year, so he'll be around 28 by the time his contract ends with Denver Broncos, which is 3 years remaining. So I'm not really sure how the future holds for him, but since he was a former quarterback, he doesn't have a ton of tread on his tires as a running back, but he does have a former ACL tear. So for RJ Harvey, it's really hard to envision a second contract for him at this moment, but if he can continue to stay healthy and continue to produce, I think he could stay around for the Broncos for close to his age 30 season, but I don't think he has that long on this team. But if we do see a jump in his running ability, then I think RJ could stay around. It's just hard to see running backs stay on this team past the age of around 30. But I'm very excited for RJ this year. He gets to go back to more of that secondary role, hopefully improve his hands in the pass game, and hopefully break out a couple more runs inside. I was critical of RJ in the draft process because I didn't think he could be an RB1. I still have questions about that right now, but obviously he's the athlete to do so. So I'm hoping to see some improvement, obviously, in this upcoming year. Hopefully get more touchdowns, more in the running game than the passing game. But I'm very excited for the pairing of him and J.K., as well as Jonah Coleman, who we'll talk about next. Now we got the Broncos' newly acquired 4th-round draft pick, Jonah Coleman. Now, I was critical of Jonah Coleman a little bit in the draft process. I'm kind of tired of the Broncos taking these short running backs, but I did say that I know he would be a good scheme fit. Because Jonah Coleman's a very good pass protector as a running back, I knew that Sean Payton could potentially like him. Now, the reason I didn't want the Broncos to target him necessarily was because he was kind of projected to be a potential 2nd-round pick to the Denver Broncos, and I wasn't really a fan of that idea. But since he dropped to the 4th round, I love that pick even more. Now, I'm not a big Jonah Coleman guy as a whole, but I still like all the tools he brings to the Denver Broncos, especially as an RB3 and contributing back. So while I said the Broncos shouldn't have targeted him, that was more in the 2nd round, and I still like Jonah Coleman as a player. He wasn't my top running back. That was probably, obviously, Jeremiah Love, but for the Broncos, Jadarian Price. But since they got him in the 4th round, I think that was really good value, and I'm really excited to see what Jonah Coleman can bring, especially as an RB3 upgrade over a Tyler Bidet and a Julian McLaughlin. Obviously, Jonah Coleman, incoming rookie. He has 4 years left, and I think he'll contribute all those 4 years. And we'll see how he develops as a runner. We'll see if he can break out some more runs, see if he can develop more in between the tackles, and see if he can potentially be one of the top backs for the Broncos if J.K. Dobbins leaves, or what the tandem will be between him and R.J. Harvey if J.K. leaves as well. Now moving on to the two potential practice squad guys for the Denver Broncos. First up, we got Jaleel. Now I like Jaleel, but he just really doesn't add nothing the Broncos already have in the 3 running backs I've already talked about. So he could potentially be a practice squad guy, or he can move on. He just really offers just that get downhill, get a decent amount of yards because of his quickness, but he doesn't really have the long speed. He doesn't really have the pass protection ability or pass game, so it's hard to bring him in on third downs. That's why the Broncos kept Tyler Bidet last year, and he doesn't really make anyone miss. Julian McLaughlin is a fine player. He's going to go and get you some yards, and that's about it. So we'll see what's in store for Jaleel. Like I said, I like him, but he's a good complimentary back. Maybe you can steal on your practice squad, call him up if you need him, but that's about it. But I think Tyler Bidet still has a chance to make this practice squad and see some games this year just because of his pass protection ability and his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. It wasn't pretty last year, but he can still do it better than Jaleel, so we'll see what has in store for him. But I do think the Broncos should only keep 3 running backs on the roster, JK, RJ, and Jonah. So we'll see what those 2 battle for in the practice squad. There's also guys like Cody Schrader, Deuce Vaughn. I'm not really excited about any of those guys. Honestly, I'd rather the Broncos look elsewhere, but I still think Tyler Bidet will probably be that 4th guy if they needed some guy off the practice squad. So the Broncos running back room is interesting. I really like it for this year, but the future is definitely up in air for a true RB1 if J.K. Dobbins were to leave. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Let me know what position I should do next, and we'll continue these position deep dives for the future.